Sometimes, if we're honest, we live a life that isn't really ours. We don't notice it right away. We just suddenly catch ourselves thinking, why am I so tired? Why does everything feel so empty? Even when things seem to be going well. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet answer whispers, because for too long, we've been living not for ourselves, but for someone to finally say, you did well. You're worthy. We want to prove that we're not failures, that we're valuable, that we deserve love, respect, belonging. And so we run. Faster, higher, harder. We become perfect employees, perfect parents, perfect partners. All for the hope that someone, somewhere will finally look at us and say, see, you're not a mistake. But then comes a moment of silence. When we no longer want to explain, to chase, to please. And in that silence, a question rises, one that changes everything. Why am I trying so hard to prove anything at all? Where does this need to prove ourselves even come from? If you look closer, almost all of us carry a story. A story about wanting to be seen by our parents, our teachers, the world. We wanted praise, approval, validation. We learned to earn it, through achievements, through perfection, through effort. And now, as adults, we keep playing the same game. Only the stakes are higher. But life isn't an exam. There's no invisible jury marking you worthy, yet the habit of proving ourselves gets so deeply woven in, it feels like without it, we're nobody. We're afraid that if we just be, we won't be loved. And yet, that's exactly the doorway to freedom. True freedom begins where proving ends. When you stop proving yourself, you stop living by other people's rules. You no longer need to justify your right to exist as you are. And for the first time, you actually start to live, not for approval, not for applause, not to fit someone's definition of enough. It doesn't mean you become selfish or detached. On the contrary, you become real. You start acting from desire, not from fear. You work because you love creating, not because you need to be successful. You help because your heart wants to, not because you want to look kind. You choose what feels true, not what looks right. So how do you actually stop proving yourself? It doesn't happen overnight. It starts with honesty, quiet, sometimes uncomfortable honesty with yourself. Step 1. Notice the moment when you start proving again. You can feel it. The inner tension, the need to explain, defend, convince. When that happens, ask yourself, what am I trying to prove right now? And to whom? Often you'll find you're not arguing with the person in front of you. You're arguing with a ghost from the past. With your father's voice saying, you'll never make it. With your mother's silence instead of praise. With a teacher who said, you're not good enough. And suddenly you realize, that battle is long over. You just forgot to put the sword down. Step 2. Stop measuring yourself by someone else's ruler. We live in a world built on comparison. Who earns more? Who looks better? Who's gone further? But that's an endless race with no finish line. There will always be someone richer, brighter, faster. Real value doesn't come from comparison. It comes from uniqueness. You are not a copy of anyone else. You are you, with your pace, your nature, your story. And the moment you start respecting your own path, the need to prove anything begins to fade. Step 3. Forgive yourself. Because often, proving yourself is just a subtle form of self-punishment. It's our way of saying, maybe if I become better, I'll finally deserve love. But self-love doesn't begin when you reach perfection. It begins when you allow yourself to be imperfect. Perfection isn't a goal. It's a trap. While you're chasing it, you're not really living. You're stuck in when I lose weight, when I succeed, when I earn enough, but life isn't waiting. It's happening now. And you are already enough, today. What does life feel like when you stop proving yourself? It becomes quieter. But that quiet isn't emptiness, it's space. Space for creativity, for joy, for authenticity. You stop adapting, because you no longer need approval. You start to radiate calm, the kind of calm that people feel around those who are truly at peace with themselves. When there's no inner fight, everything gets easier. You don't have to shout to be heard. You don't have to perform to be seen. You simply are, and that's enough. How not to fall back into the habit? 1. Notice when you lose yourself. That tension inside. That's your signal. Take a breath. Return to yourself. 2. Practice being yourself even when it feels risky. At first, it's uncomfortable, saying no, being imperfect, not pleasing everyone. But that's where your true strength grows. 3. Build your inner anchor. Confidence doesn't come from outside validation. It's built from small, quiet choices, choosing yourself, even when it's unpopular. 4. Listen to others, but don't live their expectations. You can love people deeply without being a hostage to their opinions. 5. And thank yourself. For every small step, for every day you were brave enough to be real. And do you know what happens when you stop proving? The world stops feeling like a battlefield. You no longer chase validation, you simply live. You stop noticing what's missing and begin seeing what's already here. And in that moment, something quiet and powerful awakens, not pride, not ego, but deep inner peace. You begin to act from love, not fear. You speak from confidence, not defense. You exist as yourself, without needing to explain or justify why you deserve to. In the end, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. Except, perhaps, to one person, yourself. And even that, not through struggle, but through acceptance. Through the simple realization that you are already enough, just as you are. Because when you stop proving yourself, you finally start to live.